Hi folks, I thought I would share with you how I make some half-decent scenery. It's not amazing, it's not going to win any awards, but when this is on the table, it actually looks pretty good, and you really do find the experiences enhanced if the terrain looks good. And I didn't believe it before I started doing it, and now I've got loads of it that I'm really pleased with. And this came out reasonably well, quite happy with it, so I thought I'd take you through the process. So it begins with extruded polystyrene. Now this is something specific. It's not extended polystyrene or anything else. It's called specifically extruded polystyrene. You can order it off Amazon. These were quite large, like meter long blocks that I got off Amazon for about 50 quid for 5, something like that. It's not terribly expensive. And 5 of them is a lot, right? So you'll get a lot of terrain out of this. And it's pretty much all you need apart from some sand for decoration, right? So it's actually a really easy thing to work with. As you can see, I'm just using a hobby knife there. It's like a £10 hobby knife set off Amazon again, because I'm terrible and I want Mark Zuckerberg. No, I want Jeff Bezos to have 4 or 5 extra yachts, and so I give him all my money. But literally, it's as simple as, I didn't even bother marking out. You just trace a circle around, as in the layer of the terrain that you want. And this stuff is about an inch high, maybe a little bit more, an inch 25, something like that. It's big, but it's not too big. And so the models can see over it. So you can use it, one layer of it as cover, or 2 layers of it completely hides any reasonable sized model. Anything massive, of course, is probably going to be spotted, but the average infantryman is definitely going to be hidden by 2 layers of it. And so it works really well for creating multi-layer terrain. And honestly, creating just like a wide single layer block is actually really good as well, because one of the things you notice after having a terrain that has contours on it is how unbelievably boring just a flat map with buildings on is. Like, there's not a real world scenario, right? But when you put just, even if it doesn't block line of sight, just the fact that it's there makes it look nicer and feel better. But anyway, as I said, you just cut through it with the knife, of course, being careful, and you break it out. Now, you may break it out and it may break in half like that, but that's okay. You can just use it. It's not a problem. You can just carve around so it makes it look slightly less unnatural and then carry on. When you're stacking what is going to be a bit of cliff or mountainside, just stack it on top of the thing that you're carving, just so you can carve it a bit wider, so you've got a sort of slight pillar effect on it, and then you've got a few cliff edges that you can put some sand on as you're going along. And as you can see, this is just really, really easy. Again, there's no technical skill required for any of this. If there was, I wouldn't be capable of doing it, right? But it comes out like this, and already you can see it taking shape. For the big bit that I did, this is the bit that I really wanted to do, I took about half of one, and as you can see, I just scoured around, scored out this rough plateau that I wanted to use, and then just carved it out. Just broke it apart, and there we go. There's the major components all ready to go, and that's half the work done, frankly. So I just figured out how I was planning to arrange it. It didn't actually come out like this in the end, but, roughly how would these things fit? And I thought, yeah, these would be interesting. So I carried on. Now, to get the kind of cliff rock effect on the side, I'm stealing this from some YouTube video that I watched like a year ago, and I can't remember whose it was. So if this is your technique that I'm repeating, feel free to leave a thing in the comments and I'll pin you, and say thank you, because this is a great technique, right? So take the craft knife and just score down it. Firstly, in the length to get the sort of long line, and then just in uneven slashes down across that, because then you get like a broken rock effect. And once you've done that, get a normal butter knife and get the flat edge of it, not the serrated edge of it, and then essentially quite roughly just scrape along where you've scored here. Scrape the flat end along here so it scrapes the whole thing. It's just to rough it up. Now, it's tempting when you're doing this to push really hard and like take chunks out of it, as you can see I've done in some bits here. Right, that's actually not what you want to do. You don't want to actually take bits out. You just want to rough up what's there to give it a really sort of coarse texture. As you can see, this is literally just put your thumb on it and just scrape it down. You've got to be fairly firm, got to be quite firm, but try not to tear any big chunks out. And once you've done that, as you can see, it begins like this, and ends like this. And as you can see, it's a lot more naturalistic looking. Now you've got like much finer cracks and crevices in it. And so this is the end result. Once you've done that, just get a regular glue gun. Oh yeah, get a glue gun. Again, about 20 quid off Amazon, really not expensive. I've had this one, I literally 20 or 30 quid. And this one has served me for a very long time. So it came with a bunch of glue sticks. And it's been just perfect the whole time. Like, not sponsored post. This has just been really good. And then just literally just glue them together. And they'll be, for some reason on the extruded polystyrene, it creates a really, really firm grip. And that will glue everything together. And then when they're glued together, get some PVA glue, again, like 5 quid off Amazon. So you've probably spent about 70 quid, but you're going to get loads and loads of terrain out of this. And then get some fine sand, but also some aquarium pebbles. Again, these are not expensive pieces of equipment. So the things, and then just get the PVA glue and spread it all across the thing. Get like a paintbrush or a knife or something like that and just make sure it's evenly covered. And then just pour the sand all over it, tip it out into a box, pour the box over it again. Make sure you've got a nice even covering, but only on the flat surfaces, on the bits that are not going to be rock. As you can see, these bits here, I'm leaving as exposed rock. So I've left the sand off of those. But on the sort of pillar, single standing rock as well. And you can see that this just comes out really nicely. I left this in the sun to dry, but usually you probably want to leave it overnight. It takes a few hours to do, but it comes out looking reasonably good. And once you've done that, what you need to do is go back over it, as you can see here, with another coating of PVA. But what you do with this one is mix it about, I don't know, 60-40, 60 water, 40 PVA glue. PVA glue is water soluble, so just mix this up really well and then just lash it on, just completely lash it on. Wait for that to dry. I mean, it looks disgusting, like as it is, but believe me, when it dries, it's fine. And then when it's dry on this, because with one coating of PVA glue, you'll find, and I wish I'd known this before I started doing my big boards of this, the stones will eventually just start peeling off, right? And you'll be left with little paintless bits that are real eyesores. So go over it with PVA glue mixed with water, about 50-50, 60-40, and completely coat it, let it dry completely. But then it will be absolutely rock solid. This will not go anywhere, right? And so leave that to dry, then put it out and spray paint it. Now, I spray painted mine with black. It was meant to be matte black on the thing. Again, cost me about a tenner for a couple of these, so we're up to about 80 quid now. Completely cover it matte black. These weren't as matte as I was hoping, actually, so don't use the paint I used. I can't remember what the paint was, but it wasn't very matte. But it doesn't matter because we can save it when we come to highlighting. Now we begin by highlighting with... Now, we begin the highlighting with just Mechanica Standard Grey. Just get a dry brush, fill it all in, and then just dry brush basically the whole thing with Mechanica Standard Grey. And as you can see, it comes out interesting already, right? Just cover the whole thing in it, not bad. But then what you do is I got, it wasn't Layer White Scar. It was Grey Sear, just a much lighter grey. And then just only on the top bit. So you notice I'm avoiding the bits at the bottom here. But on the light bits, just lightly dry brush over the whole thing. And then for the actual rubble, the sort of grit on top, what I did is I just got the Rhinox Hide Brown, which is here, Rhinox Hide. Give that a dry brush on all of the sort of rocks on top. And then on top of that, I did another layer of Gawthor Brown, but again, much lighter highlighting on top of that. And then if you're feeling really adventurous, mix a bit of yellow into that to really highlight up to the top. But again, you can see how actually it gives it a bit of depth, it gives it a colour, and it gives it a bit of something, right? It feels much more like a piece of terrain. Here you can see with a bit of yellow on the rocks. Again, just to make them stand out more from the cliff faces. But you can see the cliff faces look pretty great. And this is literally just 2 minutes, well, more than 2 minutes, but like just very, very rough dry brushing, then a bit of highlight, rough dry brushing, and it comes out really, really easily, really well the first time. Now, like I said, this isn't going to win any golden demons or anything, but I'm not intending to. I just want a nice wargame experience on the tabletop. And when this is down on the tabletop, this looks really good. As you can see, I did the same with this. Obviously, this one being a giant piece took a lot longer, but I'm quite happy with how it turned out. I missed a couple of bits that I went over after this picture here, so don't ignore those. But as you can see, it gives it a broken up feeling. It feels like just an organic piece of terrain now. It doesn't feel like something that has been crafted, actually, you know. And the good thing about this one is this massive gap in the middle is actually big enough for the separate pillar cliff that I've done to be fitted in there. So basically this is a very big area that can be used in the center of the battlefield, that can be used effectively. And also these bits around, your models are big enough to see over them, and so they can be used as cover, and you could have an objective marker in there, whatever. It makes it a really interesting terrain piece. And on each side, I've got vision blocking layers here. So there and there. So you can use it literally to avoid, you know, your opponent's line of fire. So it makes it for actually a very useful thing to have. And also, it looks nice when it's on the table. So I'm actually, you know, like I said, it's not amazing, but this took me an afternoon. You know, both of these pieces took me an afternoon from start to finish. And this will be ready for the game that I'm going to have hopefully next weekend. And I'm really quite pleased with them. So I thought I'd just take you through the process, because like I said, this doesn't take any particular skill. I don't have any particular skill. This isn't very much. It's less than 100 quid for literally everything that you're seeing here. This is not very expensive, and I think the effects actually look quite striking. And when you're on the battlefield and the entire thing, all of your terrain is essentially modeled and painted in the same way. The consistency of it really brings the whole thing together, and it really enhances the experience, I think. So I hope you enjoyed this. Feel free to tell me where the original skill of the modeler who discovered this technique came from, if you know. And if you would like to see more of me, you can follow my Twitch. It'll be linked down in the description. Or you can join our Discord and come and join some of our Isle games or any other games we end up playing. I hear Total War have announced Pharaoh Total War. I don't know whether it's going to have a multiplayer campaign, but if it does, definitely going to be in on it. But anyway, thanks for watching, folks. See you next time.